Hi there. My name is Tina Franzen, and I'd like to show you how you can add in a Desmos basic calculator to your Google Slide or to your Google Doc. So this is in the sidebar, and I'm going to show you behind the scenes on how you can add these tools yourself, and you can play with them and manipulate them in any way that you'd like to a certain degree. All right, so first things first, I'm going to do this in Google Slides, and I'm going to just go to slides.new. Now we have a new Google Slide. And we're going to add the script so that we can get this calculator to show up. And now to do that, so let me just show you how I did this before, where we have this in the menu bar, we have this calculator tool. If I click on calculator, we click on show, and that's what generates the script to run the calculator here. So, all right, let's get started. So I'm going to go to my untitled presentation. I'm going to actually call this just demo basic calculator. Okay, and I call it basic calculator only just because it has the simple functions, and sometimes that's all we need. We don't need a graphing calculator, scientific calculator, and we don't need the geometry tools piece here, just a basic calculator. All right, so Desmos here has some great documentation. So if I go to quick start, you can go to all of these graphing calculators, all these different tools you have, different layouts, different changes. So it can be a little like overwhelming as to what is what, and that's okay. I am here to show you how you can pull in the information from this great resource, but I'm also going to give you some other script as well that I have collected. Okay, so to do that, I'm actually going to go back to my master one where I see that it's already working, and I'm going to go to tools and script editor because I want to show you the script first. Okay, and it's actually, here we are. So when you open this up, you will see that I have this file called Code.gs, and this Code.gs has a function, two functions actually, on open, which means when the Google Slides opens, you are going to create a menu bar called calculator, and you can call this whatever you want. Then underneath calculator, show add item. So as in a drop-down menu, you will see the word show. And when I click on show, we are going to call up the function show sidebar. Well, here we are. Here's a function show sidebar. This is now calling up my HTML document, which is right here. And it's going to set a title. So my calculator. So let me go back here for a moment. See how it says my calculator here? This is where you can have some fun. So where, let's say it's in my calculator, I want to call it Tina's calculator. So this is my name, and I can have it there, and I can do whatever I want, which is kind of cool. This line of code here, I'm just going to note that whenever you see this kind of code here, and you see it here as well, these slashes, anything after it means it's a comment. Okay, so it's not actual true script. It's just kind of for us who are reading the script, what is what. This was just something I was dabbling with at the below here with the set width thing, so you can just ignore that. But this is important to note where you can see how you can change this where it says Slides app, and because we're using Google Slides, we're going to keep this. But if we were in a Google Doc, we would use this, the document app, or form app if we're in Google Forms. Now, just a side note, I haven't really had an opportunity to play with Google Forms yet. I tried it once, it didn't work out, so I'm not exactly sure what went wrong, but I didn't have the opportunity or the time to really dig into deeply on that one yet, so that should hopefully be a follow-up video. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go to calculator.html. Okay. With calculator.html, this is a page where you're going to have the calculator pieces itself. So we already did in Code.gs calling up the calculator, but we need to now set the stage for that. So this here is the lines of code that I'm just going to give you. It's just basic stuff so that basically when the calculator shows up on your screen, that is just going to adapt for the size of your screen. So little things like that you don't have to worry too much about. This, however, is really important. So pardon the pun, but this is really the key of it all because it is the Desmos API key. And they have a demo key that they have been generous to give to us so that anybody can use this. So they want to add it to your website, you want to add it to your blog site, to whatever you want, play with the API key and you can have it. So I'm going to show you where you can get this key. And then you can put it in your script, and notice that this is between the HTML tags here, head and slash head. Okay, so this is where this lives there, and I'm going to walk you through that. Within the body tags of this document, we have a div ID for calculator. We have a style, so in terms of width and height, and we're going to talk a little more about that in a minute. And then within the body tags, we have script tags, and these script tags are basically calling up the calculator using the Desmos for function calculator in particular. And then we have added additional features or functions, which in this case is square root and percent. And I'm going to show you how you can add other additional features if you would like. Now, mind you, you are limited to 2 maximum additional functions. Okay, so let's get started. So for this particular one right here, I'm going to now go to Tools, Script Editor. We're going to start off with your default page here, the Code.gs. Now, back to the master one here, I am going to share this Code.gs information here below the video. I don't know where I got this. In terms of dabbling and playing, I found some script here and there that I've kind of put together and got to this. So I apologize for anybody who I borrowed this from or found it from, that I did try to find to see where I found this to make reference, but I honestly could not find it. So I do apologize ahead of time for that, but here we are, we have it. I'm going to copy this, and as I mentioned, I will share with you so you can copy and paste it as well, or feel free to type it out. It's completely up to you. There you go. So again, this is for the Slides app. We have everything matching here. Again, you can rename this so it's not my calculator. You can call it your name and then calculator, whatever you like. You do need to keep this consistent. However, though, we're going to create an HTML file in just a moment, and we're going to call it calculator. So you do need to make sure that we are consistent there. Okay, this orange dot here just means that we've made some changes and that it hasn't been saved yet. So to quickly save it, you can just click on the Save Project right here. And while doing that, I'm going to name this right now. Let's say Sidebar Calc. All right, now I'm going to add a new file. Click on the plus sign. And you can see script is like the .gs script that we just created, but we want an HTML page this time. And we are going to call it calculator as we mentioned. And again, up to you. You do not need to keep it the same name, but you just have to be consistent where whatever you change it here, you do need to reflect that change here. So it's calling up the proper file. Okay, so here's all those tags that we talked about before. So we have the head and we have the body. And this is where we're going to work. I'm going to get rid of this default stuff here. And first things first is I mentioned how we want to basically for the sizing and so on of your page. This is just basic HTML stuff. I'm just going to grab this, copy this, and paste this in. And again, I will include this at the bottom of my video. Okay, and the next part was the key. Now, the key in the project that I created in the past, and you'll see here, this is version 1.2. Now, the documentation I'm going to show you right now is actually a newer documentation for Desmos, and it's 1.6. So the key, which is really neat for their demo key, can work for your if you're graphing calculator, scientific calculator, your basic calculator, and for the geometry tools. The key does not change. So this line of code here is what we want to grab. And you can see here how it says version 1.6 and calculator. And again, it does not matter which one we pick or which one we're going to end up using for our Google Slides, our doc, as long as you have this key, that's what's important. So copy that. Let's paste this in, and this is going to go again within my head tags here. All right, so we're done with that. Now we're going to do the body tag. So I'm just going to make some spaces here. Now within the body tag, and I'm just going back to my original one here, you can see here I have a div tag here for we have calculator, so the ID being calculator, and the style, the width, and the height. So I can also get those things here. And you'll see here, div ID calculator. Again, it does not matter which kind of calculator we're using. I'm going to grab this one. And I'm going to talk about the size for just a moment, because for the width here, 600 pixels would be great for on a blog site or website, whatever you're using it for, except for sidebars. For a Google Slides sidebar, the actual maximum width is 300 pixels. I have had it 300 pixels before, but I found that 290 pixels makes it a little nicer. a little cleaner look, but by all means, play with the width. This is your calculator. You can do what you like there. You can make it a little stretched out a little more as well, so you don't have to have it the height is 400 pixels. Feel free to play with that value to make it however you like. All right, so within this, as I mentioned, we have script tags, and this is calling up the calculator. This is very specific now in terms of the calculator for a for function calculator, and then adding these additional features. So let me show you again where in the Desmos documentation you can find this information. Here we have a quick start, and we found our original stuff here. And yes, I could grab, you see the script tag here where we have get element ID, calculator, Desmos graphing calculator, and so on. But this is specific to the graphing calculator. And since we're not doing the graphing calculator for this particular video, I'm going to look actually on the left-hand side and go to basic calculators. So basic calculators, you're going to scroll down. There is more information about the additional functions, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But what we want is the coding right here. So var ELT, and they have 1 and 2, only because they're showing where we have 2 different kind of calculators here. So they just called a variable here ELT1 and a variable ELT2. You can call them whatever you want, as long as it's called within here later on here. So I'm going to pretty much keep it the way it is. Note, again, for function calculator versus the scientific calculator, this is just like the graphing calculator above. So you can choose to use this code instead if that's what you would prefer. But again, for this demonstration, I'm just doing the for function calculator. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and go here. Now note, within this here, it didn't have the script tags above and below, but that does have to exist. So just to show you again, go back to quick start, and you can see where we need the script, then the variables ELTs, and then when you have the close script tag. So I do need that as well. So I'll just keep that in mind. So I'm going to paste this in first, and then I'm going to do my script tags. So script, open that, and at the end of this, I'm going to close this. All right, perfect. Okay, so again, I'm going to apologize to you people who are true programmers, because I do not consider myself to be one. I am a dabbler for spacing. If I'm making you like cringe inside right now with my spacing, I do apologize. But like I said, this is just dabbling and getting playing and having some fun. So bear with me. Okay. So let's talk this out for a minute. So we have our variable ELT1, fine, we can leave it like that. Document.getElement by ID. But note here, the ID here that I grabbed earlier in the Desmos, using the Desmos thing here, they call it ID calculator in this particular example here. And you'll notice that they call get element ID calculator here. So this is where I found things can get a little tricky, where in this case, they called it for function calculator. They're looking for this ID called for function calculator. Well, I didn't call it for function calculator. I used their calculator from the previous example up above. So all I need to do is just match it. Just going to be consistent. The ID is called calculator. I'm going to call up that calculator here, not that for function one, because this is what's really important, that these two match. Okay. Down below, another variable, calculator1. Again, you can keep a calculator1, call it calculator2, whatever you want, but we are calling the Desmos for function calculator ELT1. Now at this point, I can save this. I'm going to talk about those additional functions, but not quite yet. I just want to test my code. I do want to save. And I think we're ready now to see, does the calculator actually in fact come up? And then we can look at adding those additional features. So let's go back to our demo, and we need to refresh. And when we refresh, this is going to disappear, that tab, because it's going to now tuck in behind the scenes and ready to go. Let's refresh. And I find the first time, it takes a little bit of time, so don't panic when you don't see calculator come up on your menu right away. Just hold tight and we will see it in just a moment. There we go. All right, so no need to panic. Let's click on calculator, And now remember how we had the drop down, we had it scripted, so it goes show, and then when we click on show, it will run the function. So run, authorization, continue. This will happen the very first time. And I find even when I go through this that I will still need to, and if you don't see this on your screen, what I'm having is I'm having a window pop up, and this is to authorize my account and saying it's unsafe, or they're not it's not, Google hasn't verified this app. I'm going to say it's okay. And then I'm going to go to Sidebar Calculator, even though I think it's unsafe. I'm now going to allow Google to use my account to authenticate so that we're good to go. I'm going to click on calculator again because now it's authorized, and sometimes it will say running script and it just seems to like to be there indefinitely. Don't wait for it, just dismiss it and do it again, because after you have to do that authorizing the first time, it takes a little bit. And there you go. Okay, so we have our calculator here, and look at, I actually have a square root button already here. I can see that. That's awesome. So that must be built into this particular version of 1.6. So I don't need to add that additional feature. So let's see what else I can add, however, to our calculator if you want. If you're good with this, but just stop and go ahead and do it. But I'm just going to show you how you can add the little additional features. So let me go back to the scripting for a moment. So additional features. So you can see how you can have exponent, percent, fraction, square root. And as we saw the square root already. So maybe what we'll do this time, we'll put in, let's say, exponent and fraction and see if that works. They will have to be exactly worded this way. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to my demo. I have to pull up tools, my script editor. All right, so here's my script editor. I'm going to go back to the calculator.html, and this is where I have to add these additional features. So where it says ELT1, I'm going to go comma. I'm going to do like a squiggly bracket here, and this is where I'm going to add in additional functions, colon, and now I'm going to have square bracket. Square bracket, and within the square bracket, this is where I have to type verbatim within quotation marks what theirs. I'm going to do double quotation marks, what they were. So we were talking about adding, I think we said exponent, and let's do comma and fraction. Okay, so that should be, and this is where I'm crossing my fingers, that this should be how it works. So I'm going to save. Let's go back to our demo. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to refresh. It's just additional features that we're just looking to add. Calculator, show, and there we go. Okay, so there we have, oh, it looks like it replaced our square root. So keep that in mind. So if you really want that square root button there, you may want to keep that back. But we do now have our exponent button and our fraction button. So I just wanted to show you how you do have some controls, play around. Take a look at this documentation that Desmos has shared here, and I will share this link. There's some really cool stuff, changing languages, font size, and so on. Now, note, not all of these additions can be added for all the calculators, so you'll have to just play around and see what works best for you. All right, I hope this works well for you and that you have some fun while you're programming and adding in your Sidebar calculator.